In the previous lesson we started to talk about Vray Image Sampler. Let's continue. So first of all, we have to understand what is a Vray sample. We said that we are using this old method. Actually, Vray uses the same method when our eye or our camera, it's basically shooting rays to understand the geometry and to form our render. This is our project. So when a render begins, camera shoots rays into the scene to understand the geometry. The same thing we see here. We have here just a triangle, but it's the same process simplified. We are tracing, well, we draw, but we say that we trace those lines to project that object on our render. So basically we have a Vray camera and we are tracing rays towards our render. Let's load our render. And we have a simplified version of our render so we can understand the principle. What is actually Vray camera doing and what is image sampling. So we will trace rays towards our objects. We will trace only a few rays, but actually camera traces thousands, even millions of rays. I'll draw or trace 3 rays. Let's actually attach them so it's a lot easier to manage them, and I will try to install them in the same point from where they begin, from our camera. I'll get to top and let's move them a bit up. Okay, like this. So basically those are primary rays or camera rays. You can see them here, they are green. So basically when those rays are intersected our canvas, each pixel, meaning that we have at least one ray for each pixel, we are getting one pixel color. That we said that we have just one color for one pixel. Here is our pixel that you can see. Yes, it's that small. We can say that this is the same pixel and this is the same pixel. All these are pixels. In this case we get one pixel with one sample, but we can have one pixel and a lot of samples. Let's get back to Max. And we said that we draw or trace only 3 rays. Actually we have thousands or millions. In this case, if we have 2000 by 1000 pixels, we got at least 2 million rays. So every pixel got at least one ray. So basically we said that in render each pixel must have one color. In the end, this is important, in the end we have just one color. So you can see here in the render that we got for each pixel one color, and that ray is creating at least one color for that pixel. But inside a pixel we can have, before sampling, it's important, before sampling, different colors meaning different samples. So in other words, we can see here that inside a pixel we can have one sample, but inside one pixel we can have a few or more samples, meaning that we can subdivide that pixel. So you can see here those different colors, those are samples inside a pixel, and in the end Vray actually creates an average. Vray Image Sampler, it's used for AA or anti-aliasing. If we would get to Max, you can see actually here Image Sampler anti-aliasing, that it's actually giving our quality to our images. First of all, we have to keep in mind that we have 2 options. We got bucket and we got progressive. They are doing actually the same thing but in a bit different ways. We will talk about that. One thing that they got in common are the subdivs or subdivisions. This is about sampling. So you can see here minimum 1, minimum subdivisions 1, and maximum 100. And here you can see minimum subdivisions 1 and maximum subdivs or subdivisions 24. So if this is a pixel, 1 pixel, let's actually create that pixel. First of all, I would have to convert that to an editable poly, so we can create that pixel in 3D, meaning the z-axis, unless I will not be able to erase our rectangle. If I would use a rectangle, let's use a box. So I'll use a box and I'll snap. Our box should have width, of course, but in this case this would be 1 pixel, meaning that we don't have width for our pixels. We will consider that it's flat. Yes, it's that small, so let's actually rotate it and put it on our 0 level. That pixel, it's actually what forms our render. Of those pixels are formed our renders, and we need to understand the settings that are creating our renders and how much or less we need to add quality to our renders so we can get a good time and at the same time a good quality. Let's actually create a rectangle. That would be our box. It's a bit jumping. If I would have to divide by 2, for example, let's say that I would have to divide by 2, we can say that this is a pixel, but dividing it by 2, keep in mind they are equal, of course, we got 2 subdivisions and 4 samples. This is the way how, let's scale them actually a bit. They are jumping, they are too small compared to our main objects. We will consider that they are the same as previous. If I would have to subdivide that by 3, I'll copy. I'll create a third of the length. Keep in mind our pixels are square and we have 3 samples, and I will actually copy them. Yes, like that. And we have 3 by 3 samples, meaning that we got 1 pixel, but we got 9 samples inside 1 pixel. So you can see here each pixel in the end must have 1 color, but in the process of sampling we can have different colors. So in the end we have 1 color, but those different colors that we talked about are the colors of those little samples inside 1 pixel. And to determine the color, Vray analyzes the samples inside and it creates like an average color, so we can obtain that final color for our pixel. This is the process how we subdivide our pixels. We got also the rate, but we will talk about that a bit later. Now, if we would try to talk about what those settings mean here, minimum subdivs 1 and maximum 24, we can say that the pixel that you see here, it's 1 pixel, meaning 1 sample, 1 to 1. I'll create a copy so we can understand that input of 24 subdivs. I'll create a sample and we understand that we got 24 samples in a row and they are a square, meaning 24 by 24 inside 1 pixel. That is the maximum quality that will be applied if needed. So one more thing to keep in mind: when a camera ray hits a surface, a sample is created, at least 1 sample. If we would get back to our image, you can see that here from our camera, when we shoot a ray or we trace a ray, 1 sample, at least 1 sample is created. So if we would try to link that to 3ds Max, we can say that that is the minimum subdivs, meaning that on 1 pixel we got just 1 sample. Vray Image Sampler, it's used for AA or anti-aliasing. That is actually a computer graphics technique that smooths jagged edges on curves and diagonal lines, and that is better quality for our images. So Vray Image Sampler, it's here. We will talk about bucket and progressive soon. We are talking about anti-aliasing. That is the process of adding quality to our image. We should get to that is the image. You can see here an example. So with anti-aliasing we got smooth edges. If we would have those jagged edges like here without anti-aliasing, by the way, those edges represent the pixels, like here, we will get 1 pixel, 1 sample, and that will create those jagged edges on diagonal lines and curved surfaces, like here on this render. We got a curved element and we got the rug, and we need a smooth transition between them, and that anti-aliasing here actually creates that smooth transition. We will talk more on that as we will develop our course. So to avoid those jagged edges, we need to enable and use anti-aliasing. How much? We will talk about the settings. You can see here another example, by the way, and here as well. Well, on some pixels we can see here as well, we can have elements smaller than 1 pixel. So 1 sample for 1 pixel, 1 sample by 1 pixel, it's not enough. In the next lessons we will continue with image sampler, and we have to understand how bucket and progressive work, so we can understand the image sampler better. And we will talk also about noise.